Thanks for joining us again on Marketing Careers Uncovered. So today I'm joined by Ashley-Kate McCann. Ashley-Kate, she's an entrepreneur with bagfuls of commercial marketing experience. And what's really, really interesting here, and I'm sure we'll get into as our conversation unfolds, she's worked across quite a wide variety of industries and sectors, and also right from the startup world to multinational corporations as well. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Nice to be here.
Yep. No problem. So, shall we just dive right in? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now?
Yeah, no worries. So right now I'm working for a big, large multinational corporation, an energy company, as my day job. On the side, I have my own business. So I work with small business owners to help them with the marketing. And I also have a B2C business. It's called the Lava Company. We're due to launch end of this year. It's a health and wellness company, and keep an eye on that. And I also have a nice newsletter on LinkedIn, which I only started it a couple of weeks ago, and it's got quite a decent response. So I'm pleased with that.
And what kind of things are you talking about on your newsletters? Just give us a bit of the flavour.
Yeah, so I love writing. And I wanted to do something that I love reading business articles and marketing articles, and also ones on productivity and mental health. So it's all those three things combined, really. I don't want to restrict myself to one thing or another, because all those various topics inspire me. So it's a bit of marketing, bit of business, general, entrepreneurial, bit of tech.
One of the things I'm always keen to understand from everyone that I talk to here is, in terms of in terms of your journey, how did you get into this whole space?
Yeah, so I started off in this space doing my own thing, really. As an influencer slash blogger, way back, I say before it was cool, way back before it is the industry that it is now. And I had a small but engaged audience of people who interacted with my blog. It was a lifestyle wellness blog. But that blog, honestly, has helped me in so many jobs that I've applied for. People have been interested, but really it's helped me with so many skills, SEO, content marketing, community building, social media. That was really sort of my entry into that. In terms of my own business, the Lava Company, at the moment, the market for health and wellness is just going crazy. A lot of people are focusing on that more. So I'm really seeing the market opportunity for that increase. And I really think it's important to get into that space. And then on the newsletter side, I just enjoy writing, and I just needed a way to express myself.
And how long were you how long were you running that blog for? Is it something you still do now?
Oh no, God. I mean, if you look at a lot of influencers and YouTubers and things, when they look back in their original videos or posts, they are so embarrassed. And I look back at it and go, oh, that was very of the time. So I started it around 2011, 2012, and I did it for, I would say, 4 or 5 years. And I loved it. But it's, the way the influencer space was going, you really need to share more of your life, more personal life, I felt. And I didn't want to do that. I'm a very private person, so I sort of slowly moved away from it. And made it a bit defunct and deleted mostly everything on it. And that's why I'm doing the newsletter now, because I miss that sort of writing, but I don't have to share as much of my personal life because it's more business orientated area.
It's a fantastic proving ground, though, isn't it, to really put a lot of what we talk about in theory into practice. How you write, how you position things, how you can actually construct that front end. Lots and lots of different marketing skills being pulled at there to get something out. So it's not just the writing, is it?
No, and when I think about it, a lot of it is the core principles of marketing. What's your positioning? What makes your area, your blog, whatever it is, different to other people's. Because it was then, and it is even more now, a very saturated market. So what makes you different to all the other people out there? You need to find your own positioning statement. You need to understand your audience, what's your audience interested in, what kinds of things they're going to be interested in now and then ongoing. And even just in terms of building the social following in the community, where are your communities? How do you best engage with them socially? So yeah, I didn't used to put it on my CV, but I started doing it because I mentioned it to people, maybe in an interview, and a lot of people seemed incredibly excited about it because I think they got the amount of skills that were being used. So I've started to I put it in, and people really get it, and get the range of skills you can get within it.
And especially particularly if you're at a much earlier stage in your career where you end up I talked a lot to people about the experience paradox where you don't have quite the level of experience to go into some roles, but then how do you gain the experience to move into to move into roles, and that whole sort of push that whole push pull. So doing something like that I can absolutely see loads of benefit other than pure enjoyment. It actually helping people take that next step in a career.
Oh, honestly, you've hit on a really good point. I think what pushed me to do this and has sort of pushed me to have this general attitude in my life is, so as you can tell, I've got a Northern Irish accent. So Northern Ireland has so many amazing things about it, but it's got a very, very tough job market. Even when I was a student, or late teens, it was really hard to get a job. People were looking for bar work, and they were looking for 6 years experience in bar work, and you think, well, how am I going to get 6 years experience if you don't give me the experience in the first place? So I did the blog to sort of make my own luck, give myself the opportunity to gain some skills, and I've taken that approach throughout my life. It's all about instead of waiting for someone to give me an opportunity, I try and create my own luck and try and create my own opportunities where I can. Um, and that's the thread through lots of things I'm doing. That's why I'm, doing a business, and all kinds of things that I do. I approach it that way.
There's an author I follow. He's called Matt Watkinson. I will pop a link in the description of this pod actually, and he talks quite a lot about your luck surface area. And the more you do in an outward facing manner, the more people you talk to about what you're doing. Actually, luck isn't something that just happens by itself. You can increase your luck surface area by actually being very outward facing, and doing things like what you've just talked about.
I love that. And you do find, as you do that and you increase the luck surface area, you find people who are interested, and things happen. You meet people, you network with people, opportunities are created. It's amazing how it's almost like you attract those things your way by putting out as well.
Yeah, for sure. So you started out in terms of in the
Yes.
influencer blogger space. What kind of work are you involved in right now?
Yeah, so at the minute I'm focusing on the commercial side of work. So I'm a commercially focused marketeer, and I'm really particularly interested in linking what I'm doing in the activity that I'm generating and the strategies that I'm employing with three others, to how it impacts and improves business performance. That's what gets me out of bed in the mornings, having that tangible business impact. That's what makes me see that what I'm doing and what I'm advocating for the business to do, that fuels my passion, essentially.
Well, and that's the bit that people care about, right? It's what can marketing do and deliver for me, my business. It ends there, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that you think you can track every single activity to a return on investment. There's multiple ways of tracking things, and multi attribution tactics and things like that. I'm not one of those pure, send an email, how many customers did I get kind of marketers. But I think if you look at an integrated marketing campaign, how does that whole strategy fuel what the business wants you to achieve? Because as you said, that is why we're here. We're here to help fuel revenue.
So, was marketing something you always wanted to do?
No, honestly, I actually wanted to do law. So I wanted to be a judge, solicitor, and then a judge. In saying all that, I knew I was always interested in business. I always wanted to do something related to business. I absolutely loved watching The Apprentice on TV. Obviously, not for their behaviour, which is quite unprofessional, not not a conducive working environment, but really for the love of making something, selling something that I've always loved. And I think I went down the law route because it's you can see what the path would be. But honestly, at heart, I think I've always been more of an entrepreneur and a business person.
It depends what series you started watching The Apprentice, because I remember, gosh, I feel old now. I remember when it first started,
Mm.
and there were a few jackbalads and a few pieces of unprofessional behaviour, but it was genuinely a show about entrepreneurs. Whereas now it's the individuals that they seem to get on are sort of almost caricatures of themselves, really.
Look, it's a TV show at the end of the day, and if there wasn't that element, would it be entertaining if everyone was just getting on nicely? Possibly not. But yeah, it has evolved over time. I can see what you're saying.
No, there is something incredibly satisfying watching Karen Brady absolutely skewer piss poor business plans.
Yep.
So going into marketing and taking that left turn off the track to law, what was your first role?
Well, in apart from marketing, I've done lots of kind of jobs. I'm a grafter. I'm happy to work in any different way. I was cleaner, worked in coffee shops. I've done all those terrible jobs. But my first role in marketing was the influencer blog. That's what I say it is, because as much as it's nice to work for somebody else, that really was proper marketing. Creating that engaged base of users. Yeah, that's what I say my first role is.
And from that particular point,
Mm.
did you have a sure, let's call it a career path? Did you have any sort of marketing career path in mind, or were you just sort of seeing where this took you?
Gosh, I would love to say yes, because that would make things a lot more clear and easy to follow. But I decided, I was always trying to find what would my career path be? How would I get A, B, C, D, E? But I actually met someone who really made a big impact on my life. They were an entrepreneur, they owned their own business, and they were, very experienced person who was also doing a history degree and an English degree just for fun. And she'd done so many different things in her life. And I just thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pick one or the other or go, this is the correct path. I'm going to see where things go. I think the thread that I have throughout my career is being a generalist, deciding to keep lots of skills sharp, because the way the industry and the way the world is going is, I believe that the best thing you can do is to be able to learn and have lots of different skills, because ultimately things can become defunct. And that's every time I've gone into a job, I've gone, right, how can I add value here? How can I get the most out of this? Okay, now what do I want my next job that I don't want to replicate here? Or, how can I want to learn XYZ skill. How can I make that skill happen? I sort of take it, almost job by job, or ultimately I want to run a company, either in a big corporation or my own. And what skills do I need to make that happen?
And what skills have you found have been the most helpful in terms of making that happen?
Honestly, with marketing, you can get lots of skills in terms of, SEO, content writing, digital marketing, offline marketing. You can learn a little bit about design principles. But the skill that has really helped my career is stakeholder management. And that's 1,000% what has made the difference. Um, the thing is, once you've got a list of competencies like that can be learned, but how you navigate businesses, large or small, and deal with people and build relationships, in my opinion, is 80% of the job. And as you go up and up and up, I find it just become more and more about the stakeholder management.
Definitely, I've seen that time and time again, where I've worked with really, really technically competent people who absolutely know their onions, but just can't quite build and develop the right relationships in the right way, and yeah, they've hit all sort of natural ceilings, which is a shame.
Yeah, and when you think about it as well, stakeholder management is almost marketing in a way. Like, you're internally selling your ideas to people, you're building those relationships, which is what I feel marketing is about. It's about building relationships with the end consumer. So it's just another kind of, in my opinion, marketing skill to have.
How did you develop those stakeholder management skills? Because it's not like you'll wake up one morning and go, do you know what, I'm going to be really great at stakeholder management. What was your approach there?
Yeah, good question. So, you can read books on how to better engage with people, and those are definitely something I would encourage people to do, and something I would continue to do myself. But honestly, the stakeholder management skills I have learned are through other people. So I've had some excellent bosses in my time who have taught me so many things about how to manage stakeholders, how to build relationships, how to influence people. I've seen how they interact. I've seen how they answer questions. And also just even on a mentorship level. So some of my bosses have mentored me through situations. And I've had mentors outside of work as well that have helped me navigate challenges. So I would say 90% of my skills have probably been learned by watching, observing, and practical hands-on experience, rather than book learning. The book learning has helped, but really the practical side has been the thing that's helped me improve my stakeholder management skills over time.
And I imagine making mistakes along the way and having someone go, "Ooh, you might have wanted to do that a different way," or I might have positioned that slightly differently. You might have got a different outcome.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to blame my culture. So people in Northern Ireland and the Northern Irish culture, people can be very, very direct. And what I've learned is that it's not always the best approach when you're trying to influence and win people over. Sometimes you need to softly with people, and really take the time to understand them, and find the best way to reposition how you're doing and what you're doing, and how it's advantageous for them, rather than just doing and telling. That has been my biggest challenge. It's also my personality. I'm a direct person, so how do you keep the good things about your natural tendency, but also find ways to things that aren't necessarily so good? How do you overcome some of those things within yourself as well?
Yeah, because you've still got to be you, right? Haven't you? You can't edit yourself to the point where you betray absolutely every fiber of your being and walk around pretending you're something and someone you're not.
Yeah, and I've been working on, I think this is the skill, goes back to the stakeholder management skills. The skill that I've been working on at this stage of my career over the last couple of years is really, how do I bring an authentic part of myself to work? How do I bring my most authentic self to work, whilst also being the person that I need to be in the working environment? And what I've leaned on a lot is my own morals. So what kind of person do I want to be? I want to be the kind of person that people want to work with, who they enjoy working with, actively want to work with me on a project. So how do I internally sell to them, but also build those relationships so that they want to work with me, and then I can bring the aspects of my personality that leverage and nurture those relationships.
Brilliant. So I think we're in violent agreement here that stakeholder management is really, really super important. But I guess alongside that, you've still got to have some of those sort of functional foundational skills to back that to back that up. How have you kept those wheels turning as you've progressed?
Yeah, totally. So I think with marketing, every day is a learning day. So much is changing within the market. I try and stay on top of all of the various skills. Every now and again, I'm checking in on, SEO. What's the deal with SEO at the minute? Because, at one stage it was, there was SEO hacking and backlinks on search engines and things like that. But really, it's more about creating engaging content, more than just trying to hack an algorithm. So I really try and I read various news articles. I follow different marketing influencers, and I really try and understand how the market is changing over time. And honestly, every now and again I go in and dig around platforms and systems. On LinkedIn, for example, I've not personally managed LinkedIn ads in a while in a big multi-corporation. That would be something a team member would do or an agency would do. But every now and again I go in and poke around and see what there is to try and just keep some of those skills sharp. I've met marketeers who are excellent and have lots of experience, but they don't necessarily understand and necessarily have the sharp skills of all the various different tactics. But I really want to actively try and overcome that. So reading about it, and then sometimes doing the practical side of it as well. I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing the newsletter is I think email marketing and newsletter marketing is super interesting, the way it's continued to thrive and grow. Even though people hate receiving emails they don't want to receive, and there's potentially a general there can be some people can feel quite against that kind of marketing, but it still works. So I try and practically keep on top of my skills.
And you did an MBA as well, didn't you? Because you don't have enough going on.
Yes, I did do an MBA. You know what? That's another reason, another way for me to hone my skills. Absolutely. I'm so glad I did it. I didn't do it just to tick a box. I did it to really learn stuff. And I had people say, don't bother, like you'll learn more on the job than you will in an MBA. But I absolutely refute that, not just because I've spent the money and the time on it, but you absolutely can't get that kind of environment where you're constantly pushing for deadlines and you're constantly learning new topics on top of your day job. Like that's just something, day to day, I wouldn't have spent 16, 20 hours extra a week on top of my day job learning something. So when you spend all that time learning something, and investigating and researching, you're just going to learn. I think the way I also try and keep my skills up is continuously doing it. So your brain is elastic. It's a muscle that needs to be exercised. When I started my MBA, I found it really tough because after working for so long, you used to, so I read a book by Daniel Kahneman, which a lot of people have read, which is Thinking Fast and Slow. And in your work, in your day to day, you're thinking fast, you're making decisions, there's notifications popping up. So you're used to that sort of way of thinking. But with the MBA, it was about slow thinking. It was about more deep work. It was more about reading an article and really understanding a topic. So I really had to sort of get into that mindset again after being out of full-time education for such a long time. But I kept the skills. So I kept that deeper thinking mindset, but also the fast thinking. And that's kept me, I feel it's kept me sharp. One thing I think is really important is a learner mindset, and a growth mindset, which is about the understanding that you will always be learning, you will always be growing, and how can you find opportunities to optimize and improve projects that you're doing day to day and yourself. And if you make lots of minor improvements and optimizations, then you're just growing and growing as time goes on.
Really clear that you've had quite a varied, very interesting career. Could you pull out for us a couple of things that you're probably most proud of, or high points, if you will?
Yeah. So in terms of high points, one of the coolest job I've done is when I was a product marketing manager at Hitachi High Tech, which was right in the middle of my MBA. But I was given the opportunity to take on a brand new product line, new technology, and this was all during COVID. And basically, the approach that I took with this was to really understand this customer. So this customer was totally different to the customers that we'd had in the past. I used some great tools and resources. So one of them was HBR's 30 Elements of Customer Value. And I worked with the experts in the field, so sales, product, to really understand the customer viewpoint. And from this foundation, helped create the right marketing strategy. And from that strategy, then lots of cool tactics can be activated. So one thing we realized with this customer base was that they were really motivated by information, access to new techniques, and they were more interested in innovating rather than saving cost. And from there, we created a campaign that really positioned ourselves as innovators. And we were able to showcase a unique feature we had, which I don't know about you, but it's not often happens in B2B. A lot of what you sell is sort of same as, whereas we had a really unique feature that we knew our customers would be interested in. We created a thought leadership and education focused strategy for our customer base. And, at the time when we made the plans, we had planned speaking events. And because of COVID, of course, everything was cancelled. But that was fine. So what we did was we moved to webinar. And the webinar side of things was really, really successful. Lots of people were interested in joining us. We were overwhelmed by how many people were actually interested. So it could have just been that it was the right time to release that kind of tactic. The webinars were amazing as well, because within the webinar, we were able to ask qualifying questions, create marketing contacts, and we pulled on lots of different tactics to really create this huge integrated campaign that really pushed sales enablement and really helped create that commercial success. So that's something I'm super proud of. And I worked with some amazing people. I had some really good colleagues. So Matt Kreiner, Christelle Pettiot, and an amazing boss, Verity Orange, who really supported me through that. So big thank you to them to help that move forward. In terms of high points as well, I would say this is more of a general point, but some of the high point in my career is that I've had amazing bosses. So I read very early on in my career that something that a lot of people advised was that you choose your boss. So having a boss obviously makes such a big impact to your career and your life and your day to day. And I have been so lucky to have some amazing, amazing bosses who really helped me grow and who really advocated for me and really mentored me. And without them, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. So big thank you out to them as well.
So one thing I just wanted to just rewind a little bit and dig into, because I think it's often the case when we look back and talk about those achievements. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certain pieces which probably sound easier than they were in reality. Yeah, your point about realizing and noticing that your customer base was motivated more by innovation than cost savings. How did you make that assertion and sort of and read the read the customers, so to speak?
Honestly, using that HBR 30 elements model. So for anyone that's interested, if you look at the model, it's a triangle of various different categories. So functional needs, emotional needs, impact needs. So it breaks down the elements of value. And what I really did was go through each of those elements and created a little bit of it's a triangle, and I created little dots and created a bit of a Christmas tree. So for example, one of the emotional one of the areas is in the elements value is emotional. So how do our customers emotionally respond to the solutions that we can provide them, right? So within that is reducing anxiety. Okay, does our product help do reduce that anxiety, yes or no? So really breaking it down by all of those different categories help create this picture of what motivated them, which honestly, that was the base of moving that strategy forward. And without that, I think we would have got there eventually, but it really accelerated our understanding of the customer.
And you touched upon sales enablement as well, which is often overlooked but incredibly powerful piece of the puzzle too.
I mean, totally. So for me, as a commercially focused marketeer, it's not just about return on investment for the money that we spend. It's how you really engage with the sales part of the organization, because we're all in the same team, we're team revenue. How do we help sales sell more? So when you've got an engaged sales team who agree with the kind of materials you're producing and they've got the right information to hand, they're able to sell. So with that, they needed more technical documentation, and they wanted an easy way to engage with customers and invite customers to something, or something that would be easy and interesting for customers to engage with, which is where the webinars came in. And we created brochures for them that broke things down, and various different types of technical and non-technical information, and all of those things, all those assets that we created really help create that successful strategy.
Brilliant. So not everything goes absolutely swimmingly throughout our careers, do they? In terms of things that haven't quite gone so well, are there any particular points and stories that you got to pull out there?
In terms of the low points, I would say one of the worst things that has happened is that we let a customer down. So for context, what happened was we were trying to save budget. We were looking at a new videography company, and we needed to do lots and lots of video photography that year. And I also recommended this company, who came in and sold themselves really well, to another marketeer within the place I was working at the time. And both of us together taking the videography company on helped us to save cost. And unfortunately, everything was going well on our end, but the company really let the other marketeer down. They had a shoot plan with the customer, and they just didn't turn up. They came to shoot at our venue, but they didn't edit the venue, and we had video files that we needed to use, but we weren't able to fully use them, and it just caused this whole knock-on effect, because it was a case study, because it was with the customer, that because the video quality wasn't good and you've got very limited time to work on these kinds of projects and take up space in the customer's venue, it just created such a nightmare because of this one supplier. And honestly, that year we had just so many problems with different video suppliers that we were working with. And it got to the point where, there was so many, I tried to get a second company to fix it, and then they weren't amazing either, because the videos that the first company took weren't great. It was this whole ball of issues that just was ongoing. And honestly, at that point, we just had to sort of leave the project to cool off, because, the customer was expecting a video and then it wasn't good, and we didn't want to, harm any potential sales opportunities. So the sales team sort of said, the marketing team has lots of approvals to go through. And we really had to leave a good amount of time, so it didn't create an issue with the account. Usually these kinds of things, I've done lots of these things before, they can really accelerate a sales relationship. And the customer feels great, they've got a case study, they've got something to say they've done internally and for their own career. But at this point, this just wasn't going well, so we really had to sort of distance ourselves from the project. So I would say, luckily, that's the worst thing that's ever happened, because there's so many things that could be worse than that. But that's something that I think, I really wish I'd approached that differently, used a more trusted supplier for those particular instances, at least.
And you probably ended up spending more money in the long run, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. we did. And honestly, the hassle and everything else, the money that we saved, we were trying to save budget, cost saving, return on investment. We're trying to do all that, and the money we saved, we end up spending more than, or the same as what we would have paid before, or it was a nightmare. So sometimes you trying to save money with a company that's new can be a big risk. And since then, what I've done is I've approached taking on a new supplier and applied appropriate risk, a risk analysis to the situation. rather than, going head first and trying to save money, new supplier, high potential customer. That's something I wouldn't do again if I
Yeah,
could avoid it.
definitely a lesson here about sort of cost versus value and sort of longer term thinking as well.
Yeah.
So on that sort of vein of approaching things differently, reflecting back on where you are now, is there anything else you would approach or do differently?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been taking on stock recently about this, and I definitely think that I started off my career, really building and trying to achieve, but honestly at the expense of myself. And if I could do the last 10 years differently, I would absolutely prioritize my personal well-being over what I perceive to be business needs. When you're not feeling great and you're not feeling your best, you're not necessarily approaching every situation in the right way. So, or the best way that you could, with a clear mind and a neutral mindset. And I would absolutely prioritize myself and my personal wellness over anything else. So that I can bring my best self to work, essentially. The other thing I would do would be to get a mentor earlier. So I would really try and find someone, connect with someone on LinkedIn who really understands marketing and really understands how to engage with stakeholders, because we touched on that before. That's quite a challenging area to learn through books. It's more of a practical learning skill. So I would get a mentor earlier, and if anyone wants help, I'm happy to mentor people. I'm happy to bring people up because people have helped me and move along, but I would absolutely get a mentor earlier just to help navigate some of those tricky situations.
I think especially individuals who are, if you're the only marketing person, in a business, it can be really, really hard to get that additional
Mm-hmm.
perspective from somebody, as you say, gets marketing and the whole sort of that stakeholder management piece.
It can be a bit lonely being the only marketer sometimes, when you don't have people around you that necessarily understand everything you're trying to achieve in your skill set. You sometimes, yeah, you're right, you can lose sight of how things work, or some of the problems you have, especially being the only marketeer, because I've done that before, is that you're having to internally sell and you're getting pushback, but that's actually quite normal. And having someone, like you said, to give you a different perspective or an outside perspective to try and normalize some of the challenges you're having absolutely would help.
Or even understanding how to appropriately challenge it, because we've all had crap ideas
Yeah.
from senior colleagues where you
Yes.
go, and one can't just always turn and go, that's a crap idea. You have to sort of rebut it and pull it apart with questions, and unless you build that skill and know and understand how to do that, you can end up becoming a bit of a yes person, can't you?
Yeah, totally. So, gosh, you make a point about other people having bad ideas, which is true, but I myself have probably had, and I know I've had terrible ideas as well. So having someone to mentor you through how to unpack and sell your own ideas and really think them through, but also unpack and sell or potentially redirect someone else's and your own bad ideas can only be helpful.
So what's next for you?
Well, I'm trying to spin a lot of plates. I love spinning a lot of plates. The busier I am, the happier I am. So in terms of, in a summary, I'd like to move up in a large corporate, manage a large team. I really enjoy coaching people. I really want to continue to do that. And personally, I'd love to get my business to be really self-sufficient and really expand the product lines.
And in terms of your self-development,
Mm.
more work to do there. How are you approaching that?
Yeah, so in terms of working for others within a company, so I would really love a business leadership role, and I'd love to have responsibility for a P&L. And how I'm approaching that at the moment is through building a business and really also expanding my experience in commercial marketing. So I'm trying to get lots of exposure to lots of different industries and sectors, because the more exposure you have, the more skills you have, the more, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better it is. As a marketeer, going down the marketing route, I just want to take on bigger teams and really work in a way that really makes a large impact. Marketing differs to sales in terms of its scale and the impact across the organization. And that's the one thing I really do love about the marketing space. And to really approach that, I'm just trying to add more strings to my bow. So new markets. So I've worked in tech, I've worked in energy, I've worked in logistics. Every time I've done something different, I've learned more. So just continue that approach. As a business owner, what I'm trying to do is learn from the best companies out there. How do they approach their business decision making? It's a totally different skill. In corporates, everything is slow. Lots of people are involved, and not always great decisions. But when lots of people are involved, it really spreads the risk because lots of people come to a decision together. But when you're a business owner, you really live or die by your own sword. Currently, I'm reading Shoe Dog, and I'm really learning about the approach there and how you need to overcome hurdles and be consistent and be tenacious, and to always try and improve what you're doing. And I'm trying to watch what others are doing. So, what are they doing? What can I not do as well? And really, as a business owner, one thing I want to do is try and keep true to myself. So how do I want to run them? Ultimately, I want to be a business owner because I really do want to create jobs for other people. And I really want a working environment that leads with empathy, gives people flexibility to live their own lives, and really treats people with respect whilst making a healthy profit. So I really want to try and keep that mindset, and follow that path as the business does expand.
So very much, continuing to learn by doing. And I guess going back to one of your previous points, spinning lots of plates, but not at the expense of mental well-being. How do you anticipate balance? How do you balance that one?
Good question, Dave. Don't get me wrong. I do have lots on my plate at the minute, but I'm looking at where I derive my energy. So when I'm working on my own business, it doesn't make me tired. It doesn't make me stressed. I really get a lot of energy from that. So I'm not finding that it's impacting me in that way. But also taking regular breaks, looking after yourself, engage, having close friends, engaging with them. Don't lose sight of that community that you have around you, and get outside and go for a walk. I'm trying to make sure that I have multiple touch points of being outside, do a bit of business, meet friends, do things away from the business, because the more you go away from things from your own business and your own job, I find I come back with better ideas and fresher ideas. So creating space, and being disciplined with myself, and being in touch, being in touch with how I'm feeling. Is it too much this week to do X, Y, or Z? Yes, well then, time for a break.
And what's the sort of next big step for your own business, but the Lava Company?
So, in terms of the Lava Company, my big ambition for that is to really be a health and wellness brand. I touched on it earlier about how the health and wellness industry is just growing because people are prioritizing themselves, sleep, mindfulness, their general health. And I really want to create a company that enables that, helps create these moments where people can find more peace, feel better, sleep better. So that's my big ambition for that brand. We've got a couple of products we're working on, and we're just deciding which we're going to launch towards the end of the year. And if you want, Dave, I'm happy to provide an exclusive discount for your listeners, which can be updated in the description as it's launched.
I love a discount. Everyone else will love a discount. We'll have a discount. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Sorry.
So before we say goodbye, I just wanted to close up on if you could tell us quickly sort of your best decision and your worst decision in your career.
Yeah. Let's go for bad first, and then we can end on a high note. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Yes. So I think I have been at fault with sticking with suppliers that we've been working with for too long. I've worked with people and agencies that just haven't been that nice to work with. They've not made my team feel good. And instead of, biting the bullet and going through the process of taking another agency on and finding an agency that really works well with the team, I've sort of stuck it out, and I really wish I hadn't. I wish I'd just expended the energy, because um, more time was dedicated than needed to be, and it would honestly have been less effort just to find someone else that would work really well with us. And the other thing that was bad is I definitely have stayed in some work environments too long. Um, you know, at this point of my life and career, I'm definitely prioritizing a really good work environment. And I've had been in toxic work environments that have definitely benefited my career. But I look back and go, I should have left 6 months earlier. That was enough, because I really was impacting how I was feeling. And it takes a long time to overcome things like that. So I would definitely be more cautious about the work environments I'm in, and also leaving as soon as it's not good for me. In terms of good decisions, definitely choosing some amazing bosses. And I it's not that I've chosen them; they've decided to let me work for them. But I've definitely said yes to people based on how I felt like they would be like to work for, and I've been so lucky that they've chosen me, and then I've accepted the role. So in a way, I've chosen them. I've also chosen companies that have based on how they treat people. So sometimes you go to interviews and people they want someone with exactly 5 years experience in a particular industry, and they won't look at someone who doesn't have exact criteria they need. And I just think that's so silly. I really want to work for companies that have people with open minds and people who understand skills are transferable. Like I've had people speak in a derogatory way about people that have worked in customer service, and I just totally disagree with that. I've worked in customer service roles, and in those roles I have learned things that I keep with me today. So I like working for people that really get that you don't need to have XYZ box ticked before you can work somewhere. But really focusing on how companies and bosses treat people, I think I've prioritized that. I'm going to prioritize it even more. And I think that's been helpful for me.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for coming on again. Really appreciate that, and look forward to hearing all about your new ventures in good time.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to have such an interesting discussion. Thanks for letting me be part of your cool podcast.